Tonight, Premier Scott Moe speaks out on tariffs, putting a pause on U.S. alcohol sales. We find out what impact tariffs and counter-tariffs could have on major Saskatchewan industries, and a fitting tribute from the colleagues of a Swift Current woman who dedicated her career to agriculture research.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, March 5th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. Premier Scott Moe broke his silence Wednesday on tariffs imposed by the United States, and he says some retaliatory measures will be taken by the province, effective immediately. Chris Edwards has our top story.
Premier Scott Moe's response to U.S. tariffs has arrived. American alcohol no longer to be sold to Saskatchewan restaurants, bars, and liquor stores, and American contractors and suppliers no longer to be used in any provincial capital projects unless they're deemed essential. Moe is also throwing his support behind the federal government's counter-tariffs on $155 billion worth of American goods, but was still clear about where he wants the province's trade to go when this is all over.
Our most significant trading partner has, and when the dust settles, will still be the United States of America. Our most significant ally has and will continue to be, when the dust settles, our most significant ally in the world. That's not to say that our relationship isn't changing before our very eyes.
Moe was less strident than other premiers on taking sides in the dispute.
We're all on the same side, and there is only one side, the side of North America, and Canada very much is a part of that.
The opposition NDP was less conciliatory.
Scott Moe is a day late and a dollar short, and frankly, the fact that he is the very last premier in this country to have come out and spoken to the people of his province has not gone unnoticed.
Still, Beck says her opposition is ready to keep working with the Sask Party government to form a united front, especially in the coming days. More American tariffs, this time on Canadian steel and aluminum, are expected March 12th. Chris Edwards, CBC News, Regina.
And the tariffs could have a big impact on exports that come from Saskatchewan, as you just heard. So what does this all mean for our province, given we are the country's largest exporter of potash and a major contributor of crude oil? Dane Patterson covers that side of the story.
Saskatchewan is the sole producer of potash in Canada, and it provides the U.S. with 85 to 90% of its potash needs, accounting for $4.2 billion in export revenue.
We really do need Canadian potash, and the rest of the world would not be able to shift the supply chain to meet the U.S. demand.
That valuable farming fertilizer is now facing a 25% tariff, as laid out by U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday. And it's just one of several important Saskatchewan exports that head south. Last year, Saskatchewan's top export to the U.S. was crude oil. It reported all of its nearly $12.5 billion worth of crude was sent to the United States, with it and potash accounting for 60% of the province's exported goods to the U.S. Canada has already responded with 25% tariffs of its own on $30 billion worth of U.S. goods. Those cover a wide range of items from eggs to tires to building materials. And that has some in Saskatchewan's construction industry speaking out.
Just like a lot of the other industries in our country, we're very concerned about it. Construction is 6% of Saskatchewan's GDP, so we're a pretty big industry and a pretty big driving force of the economy.
Saskatchewan's top imports brought into the province are heavy and special vehicles. That includes vehicles used in construction, mining, and farming. Statistics Canada, though, says some of those vehicles could also be destined for other provinces once they cross our border. Either way, it's unclear if they'll be a part of the second half of retaliatory tariffs Prime Minister Justin Trudeau threatened if the U.S. doesn't back down. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
And U.S. President Donald Trump has decided to grant one industry a short reprieve from the 25% tariffs he imposed on Canada and Mexico. The auto industry is getting a 30-day exception from the punishing tax. Megan Fitzpatrick has details from Washington.
Just one day after forging ahead with tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports, President Donald Trump hit the pause button on the auto sector. Now, vehicles subject to the existing trade deal between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico will be given an exemption, but just for a month.
Reciprocal tariffs will still go into effect on April 2nd. But at the request of the companies associated with USMCA, the president is giving them an exemption for 1 month so they are not at an economic disadvantage.
The reversal came after Trump spoke to the CEOs of the big three automakers, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, and after stocks plummeted Tuesday, including in the auto sector. They bounced back up today in the wake of the exemption news. The reprieve gives the closely integrated North American industry some breathing room to figure out next steps. The companies had hoped for an exemption from the outset, and when they didn't get it, they were bracing for a huge impact. Some in the industry warned plants could shut down within days and that cars and trucks would shoot up in price for customers. Trump made it clear to the automakers that if they want to avoid tariffs next month, they should bring their entire production lines to U.S. soil.
He told them that they should get on it, start investing, start moving, shift production here to the United States of America, where they will pay no tariff. That's the ultimate goal.
Overhauling the auto sector and how parts flow back and forth across the borders to make a vehicle won't happen overnight, says this expert.
Nobody's going to be moving a plant in 1 month. So we need to be clear about that. I think in best case scenario, if anything's going to move, it would probably take years to do that.
Levitt said Trump is open to hearing about other possible exemptions, but in his primetime speech to Congress Tuesday night, he insisted that tariffs are going to make America rich again. Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Washington.
And the U.S. tariffs are very quickly changing the way several big businesses are approaching the American market. Here's just one example. Swiss chocolate maker Lindt is making a move to avoid counter tariffs imposed by Canada on the U.S. Canada is one of the company's top 10 consumers by volume, but 50% of the chocolates the company sells in this country are actually made in the U.S. The rest come from Europe. So in the lead up to the tariff deadline, Lindt began stockpiling its chocolate supplies in Canada, and going forward, the company plans to sell all of its Canadian product directly from Europe to avoid additional taxes and American boycott attitudes. Regina's new mayor says he is proof that politics doesn't need to be about the money. Financial disclosure documents show Chad Bachynski's campaign spent a little more than $12,000 during the municipal election last fall. That may sound like a lot, but it's actually far below the money spent by his major competitors, including former Mayor Sandra Masters, who spent $60,000.
$12,000 is a lot of money. It really is, and I think it was. I think what I learned is there. The cost for a billboard, a cost for a small batch of signs. It's not insignificant. It does add up. But what we also showed is with a strong team and a strong strategy. I think we showed word of mouth can go a long ways.
Bachynski was able to earn over 30% of the vote this past November. Masters, meanwhile, ended up placing third, while former Ward 4 councillor Lori Bresciani came in second. Bresciani's campaign spent a total of $24,000. A young woman from Swift Current has received a fitting tribute. Leslie Oakman died from cancer 5 years ago at the age of 42. And her colleagues at the agriculture research station she worked at say they wanted to find an appropriate way to honor her. So they're doing it by naming a wheat variety after her.
We felt this new variety was a good way to pay tribute to Leslie's work at Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. Leslie Oakman was a technician with our wheat breeding group here in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. She was a member of the curling club, the local choirs, church, 4-H. She was a big member of the community. These research teams are like families. It takes a long time to develop wheat varieties, anywhere from 8 to 12 years. So many of us work together, research scientists, technicians, laborers, and we work together for the common goal of releasing varieties that help producers. Towards the later 2010s, Leslie was diagnosed, unfortunately, with cancer, and she passed away in early 2020. We had planned to have a larger memorial for Leslie, but COVID restrictions threw a wrench into that plan, so we didn't have a very good time to come together as a group and community to say goodbye to Leslie in that way. Speaking with the other research scientists, technicians, and laborers in our group, along with the licensing seed company CCAN, we decided to name this new innovative variety AAC Oakman, using Leslie's last name. It's a way to pay tribute to Leslie's work. It's a way to help remember Leslie in the coming years and decades.
Well, some four-legged friends stopped for a quick snack in Wascana Park near the Science Center in Regina Wednesday morning. Something tells me they're enjoying this warmer weather just like the rest of us. Those trees they're snacking on also got a coating of frost overnight, but it quickly disappeared as things warmed up once again. Weather specialist Riley Lachuk joins us for a look at some even warmer temperatures when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Last year, nearly 6,000 people in this province got a distracted driving ticket, but that's actually down from 2023 when nearly 8,500 tickets were written. CBC Radio's Blue Sky focused on distracted driving Wednesday, and host Sam McCagg asked Regina Police Constable Mike Seal about why that number has dropped.
Newer cars, a lot of them are coming out with like CarPlay. You can even buy things now that if you have an older car and you don't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you can mount it to your dash and it simulates that. And I think also just like the increased penalty and fines and a lot more education, whether it's Sandra or SGI, a lot of people are more aware of how serious it is. It's literally just below impaired driving and causing injuries and death for accidents in the province. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things.
In the last week, let's just go last week. What are the top 5 most ridiculous things you've seen people doing while driving?
I had actually on Monday night, my block this week has been Monday, and this is my 3rd day working. I had a lady I pulled over, and it was the 4th time in 12 months that she's been on her cell phone. She was also suspended from driving, so she got a $2,100 ticket. She got her vehicle impounded for 7 days for the repeat cell phone use, and then also got a court summons for driving while suspended as well.
So not learning a lot of lessons, that one.
No, and for me, when I pull someone over, obviously there's an enforcement and all that type, but I also want to educate the person to let them know what they can do when they're driving, whether you have an amount, and when it's an amount, you can touch it once to change a song, answering a phone call. You have your map displayed just like you can on your infotainment screen. And I looked up who wrote her a ticket previously because her defense was, I didn't know I couldn't do that. And I wrote her a ticket last summer for that. And I said, I know I told you what you can and can't do, so that's not a valid defense.
Do you get mad? Like, can you get mad? Are you allowed to get mad when you've pulled someone over for the 4th time in a year for doing the same thing?
It's frustrating. It's disheartening, honestly. When I'm in the car, I'm frustrated. I'm kind of like, you see their history and you just kind of shake your head and like, and they always say, well, I'm not on my phone all the time. I'm like, if you've been caught 4 times in a year by the police, I guarantee you're on your phone all the time, or else you're the most unluckiest person in the world that the only 4 times you've ever been on your phone is when someone caught you.
Well, after fighting to get their lives back on track, 2 Manitoba women are hoping to do the same for others. From those who struggled with addictions to others who are trying to start over after spending time behind bars. Their new salon in Brandon is helping people on the road to recovery. Chelsea Kemp has their story.
Jessica Chartier adds another tattoo to her best friend's arm. Chartier began tattooing when she started her recovery journey almost 6 years ago.
I turned my pain into beauty, into art. So even if there are a couple squiggly lines here, it's just I remember that progress and what it meant for me.
Chartier says it was hard getting her life on track after experiencing addictions and incarceration. She wants to make that journey for others easier. That's why she's opening Studio Serenity with her best friend and hairstylist, Sasha Boyd. The two met in recovery meetings, where they say many people need a hand up getting back into the workforce. Boyd says they're taking on tattoo and hairstylist apprentices. They want Studio Serenity to give people in recovery or coming out of incarceration a fresh start.
I hope that, the more we talk about it, the less of a stigma that it is. I'm not ashamed to say that I recover from it. I'm proud. I'm proud that I can be an advocate for recovery and say that it is possible.
Studio Serenity is also offering tattoo removals in partnership with the John Howard Society of Brandon. They'll help with tattoo removals based on the grant money available to pay for the service. Charche says they want to help remove gang, facial, and other tattoos that prevent people from getting jobs.
When you come into recovery, there's a lot of shame and guilt, and that's a consistent reminder when you have that on your body. So if we can help people to remove that and love themselves and the skin they're in, that'll just boost self-esteem, boost employability opportunities.
And for Charche, boosting people up to succeed in the workplace by celebrating their recovery journeys. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Brandon.
Well, another day where we saw the sun come out across many portions of the province. Another day where we also saw some puddles developing as well as the March melt is continuing. Riley Lachuk has a look now at our forecast with some nice temperatures continuing. Hi, Riley.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. Certainly very seasonal, really across the province today for the most part. I know temperatures kind of dancing around the freezing mark, up to -2 for your afternoon temperature in Regina. At the freezing mark in Saskatoon, outlook, even some temperatures into the southwest corner of the province, jumping up to around +4. Which I mean is several degrees above seasonal for this time of the year. Even a little bit of warmth into northern parts of the province, La Ronge at -1. We have been under the influence of a bit of high pressure that started to sink south into Manitoba and south of the border. But by and large, just a mix of sun and clouds really across the province today. I mean, throughout the southern sections, we have seen a couple of scattered flurries out of some of this cloud cover, but really not much in the way of any inclement weather by any means as we've gotten through the day. As we head into the overnight hours into Thursday, again, a chance of a few more scattered flurries, particularly into the Parkland, Hudson Bay, Yorkton, Kenora, potentially getting a couple of flurries overnight into Thursday morning. Behind that, we start mostly sunny for your Thursday. Another weak disturbance pushes across northern sections, really not bringing much in the way of accumulating snow, but again, just be mindful that you could wake up to a dusting of snow. As we head into Friday, another system coming along the jet stream line here, and we do see maybe the potential for a little more light snow in places like La Ronge and down into the Parkland as we get later into the afternoon Friday. For the rest of us, though, really looking at just a mix of sun and clouds to wrap up the work week. As I said, maybe a dusting, maybe a couple of centimeters out of some of these systems by the time we get to Friday afternoon, but by and large, we're looking at pretty calm conditions as we get through the next several days here at least. But what I will note as we get into the long range is the polar vortex starting to return again. So as we get into Saturday, we are on the warm side of the jet stream through much of south and central, but you can start to see that polar jet start to sink south again. As this works its way south into Monday, I mean, we're not looking at temperatures like we saw with that cold snap in February, but certainly looking at temperatures returning to something maybe a little bit more seasonal as we get into the middle of next week and even below seasonal for this time of the year. So looking at your long-range forecast into Regina, -2 for Thursday, a mix of sun and clouds, varying amounts of sun and cloud really into the weekend. And you'll notice those temperatures popping up back above freezing by the time we get into the weekend. +3 for Sunday, and then there's that change in our pattern back down closer to seasonal as we get into Monday and Tuesday of next week. Seasonal now at -3 in Regina, down to -4 for Tuesday, -3 on the way for Wednesday. Similar story for Saskatoon. The potential for a few fog patches into the early morning for Thursday, up to the freezing mark, looking at +4 again on Saturday. And then there's that change in pattern to, Ethan, some temperatures that are a little bit cooler than seasonal as we start next week. -7 for Saskatoon next Monday.
Yeah, at least it's not -40. Thanks so much, Riley. Well, the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto has launched a new exhibit featuring items from the Four Nations Cup. The collection includes game-worn jerseys donned by the participating countries, Canada, the U.S., Sweden, and Finland. The Four Nations Cup is featured at the center of the display. The Cup, of course, most recently won by Team Canada when it defeated the United States in overtime in the final game of the championship. Guests at the Hall of Fame can take a picture with the cup from now until the end of March break. And for those of us in Saskatchewan who do not have March break, that is March 28th. So if you're planning a trip to Toronto, a little patriotic pilgrimage you might want to make. Stay with us. We have more news after the break. A photographer in Ontario snapped some shots of a Canada goose and a bald eagle battling it out near Burlington, Ontario. Mervyn Sequeira says the eagle picked the fight and that the squabble lasted about 20 minutes. It looked like the goose was about to meet its end, but for some reason the eagle gave up and flew away. Sequeira says he posted the photos on his Instagram with no particular political reference, but that's how it was perceived online. Two national symbols duking it out in the natural world.
Well, looking now at your forecast as we head overnight into Thursday, looking at temperatures actually fairly seasonal for this time of the year through the overnight hours. Regina -16 overnight, Wynyard also at -16, around -15, maybe some flurries into the parkland, the northern parts of the parkland region like Hudson Bay, potentially picking up a dusting of snow overnight. Into central sections, particularly Outlook, Saskatoon, into the Battlefords, the potential for maybe some fog patches overnight, so keep that in mind as we head into Thursday morning. And temperatures dipping for some of us into the -20s overnight into northern sections, maybe a few flurries as we get through the day on Thursday. La Ronge at -10. Maybe you're getting a dusting of snow over the lunch hour into the afternoon tomorrow, but temperatures really ranging from -1 down to around -15 as we get through the afternoon. Southern sections, a mix of sun and clouds tomorrow, maybe a couple of scattered flurries here and there, but Ethan, by and large, looking at another similar day. Temperatures, again, fairly seasonal to above seasonal for this time of year.
Looks good. Thanks, Riley. And before we leave you, tour guide Drew Hamilton had an interesting run-in recently. He recounts the moment he captured footage of a polar bear and its cub near Churchill, Manitoba.
Being able to share these intimate moments are where the connections happen. We got a call that the trackers had found a mom and cub. We pulled up and the cub started to get restless and started climbing around on mom. And I've got a young one at home. So as I was watching this mom and cub interact, it reminded me a lot of my own little one crawling all over. Everybody was just in the moment. These predators sharing these intimate moments, you feel in some ways removed, in some ways more connected with the earth, with everything that's going on around you. What a beautiful place we are in. It's got amazing northern lights. And then the Churchill River, we've got 3,500 beluga whales. It's known as the polar bear capital of the world. You've got to make a trip to Churchill.
Yeah, beautiful indeed. That is it for us. For news anytime, you can always head to our website or subscribe to our YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.